All right, should we do Watch This, Jerks? I think we were
Sure.
busy. It looks like we were busy.
Yes.
I watched a movie that's brand new and on Netflix. It's a short 90-minute documentary about MoviePass called MoviePass Movie Crash.
I wanted to watch that. How is it?
I think it was great. It provides like a nice look at the obvious, like why the MoviePass business model was unsustainable, but which you think you would probably know everything about, but it takes you behind the scenes to show you how the age-old story of how black people get fucked over by white people. Like the founders of this company were actually two black guys, and at some point they needed more money, and the financiers were like, hey, we need to install our guys in the board, and then they just like push the founders right out the door. But it's really well done, and everybody loved MoviePass. I mean, did you all have MoviePass?
I did not. No.
I did not.
What? I did, but it went under quickly after. I don't think I got to use it too often. But it's a great movie, and it respects your time.
I think the time that MoviePass was out was when like I was going to like every Tuesday there were $5 movies anyway.
It wasn't for
right?
you. It was for New Yorkers who had to contend with like crazy prices, where like $10 a month to see any movie you wanted was, unsustainable, obviously. So that was really good. And let's see, Dammy Pass in the chat wrote earlier. He said, can't stay for the cast, but wanted to say that he watched Big Door Prize on Cheapy's recommendation. Fantastic show, and that he loves Giorgio. Giorgio, I
still haven't watched season 2.
You have to watch it. Giorgio straight up reminds me of one of the coaches at Orange Theory at my studio. Like I laugh. It's almost like
that checks,
because like he's over enthusiastic, but I don't know. He's got the same voice even. What are you guys watching on TV?
I started watching Bodkin on Netflix. It takes place in Ireland. It's Will Forte is in it. It's not a goofy comedy by any. It's a fairly dry, almost serious. It's about a podcaster played by Will Forte, and he's in Ireland, and he's doing a podcast about the disappearance of 3 people 20 years prior in this small town. And there's a journalist that he's doing it for this newspaper, and a journalist from the newspaper who's from England gets assigned to do it with them and their assistant, and the drama that ensues in this small town and all the stuff that goes on. It's interesting. It's a little slow, which is why I haven't finished it.
I watched the trailer actually of that because it looked.
It's interesting, but I don't know if I love it. That's sort of the problem. Yeah, it's not bad. It's okay. I also started the Lollapalooza documentary on Paramount Plus. If you wanted to know about the history of Lollapalooza, it's pretty interesting. It's like, I think it's 4 episodes. I watched 3. Pretty cool stuff.
What's the history of Lollapalooza?
Jane's Addiction was going to do a farewell concert, but before they did that, they were supposed to play the Reading Festival in England that summer before, and Perry Farrell got sick, so he couldn't go, but he saw the concert. He couldn't perform, but he saw the concert, and he's like, that's what I want to do for our farewell concert. And they did that, but it was the first, but he wanted to take it around the country. So it was really the first major festival that traveled and wasn't just like a one-off in one place each summer. So that was basically it. And it was just, who are the bands we can get? Who do we like? And, they got lucky with like, they got Pearl Jam before the album to sign on before the album came out, kind of a thing. And that was actually in the second summer, but they paid him $8,000 for the entire tour. And it was before the album came out, and they had the #1 album in the country, and they were doing Lollapalooza for $8,000 for the summer.
Right.
Yeah. But they say they had the best time doing it. They didn't care.
I think they did all right.
They did all right. Yeah, I'm just saying
they made enough money.
But it was a lot of that kind of getting lucky with some in the beginning. And then they talk about the year that they had Metallica and all these big bands, and people hated it because it was too big. And then they went the next year and they went really small, and people hated it because the bands were all too small.
Talking about
and it was
E3,
like-
or are you talking about?
yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
it's kind of is interesting.
That was where Jane's Addiction ended up, was at E3.
Yeah, yes, and we saw Jane's Addiction.
We saw him like twice.
Mhm. Mhm.
Nice,
Here we go.
cool.
And I also watched South Park: The End of Obesity.
I watched that too with Mrs. Chibi. I somehow
that's fun.
convinced her to watch that, which is I even surprised myself.
I watched it with Elliot because he's like, "Can we watch this?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Sure, I'll give it a shot," because obviously I have self-interest in, are they making fun of me or are they not making fun of me?
Right.
As someone who injects himself in the stomach with one of these drugs.
And what was your verdict?
I actually felt they were pretty even-handed and fair, and I usually don't agree. Like,
Usually
I'd
don't
say I'm
watch them though.
50-50.
When's the last
Yeah.
South Park that you've watched before
It's
this?
been a long time.
Yeah.
And I actually I didn't disagree with their points of view on this one. They were pretty much spot on.
They're pretty good usually. Like,
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. For those who won't, it was funny, which helps.
is the point. In fact,
yeah. But there are definitely some indictments on the healthcare system in this country, and what is considered a disease and what isn't considered a disease, and who needs drugs and who doesn't need drugs, and what it takes to get them, especially for people who need them. Because, to be blunt, yes, Cartman is obese and could use the obesity drug, and he can't get it because the government decided that they don't cover it, and it's all the shenanigans they get into to get him and it was also pretty funny because it was around that time that my prescription, my box that I had in the fridge was about up. So I had to call the pharmacist and be like, "Hey, do you have it in stock?" Like one of the moms. I was literally, as I'm on the phone with the pharmacist, I could hear the South Park in my head going, "Do you have it? Because I need it by Sunday." "No, I need it by Can you get me something by I don't think you're understanding." That's them on the show. That's not me. But I'm like, "But I need it by Sunday." "No, I really do." So then I had to email my doctor. That was me. I had to go through all that nonsense because so many people who don't need it are paying full price for it.
right.
As opposed to people like me who are covered for it, who can get it through, because their doctor's like, "You should."
If it was available, if it was in stock.
Yeah. So it's like a whole thing. So
South Park is good. They're like newer stuff, at least, like these specials that they do for Paramount Plus, these like 45-minute specials like this. They're really good at like putting this stuff out, and you watch the trailer and you're like, you don't really know, like, this is going to be offensive to me as someone who's interested in the subject like you were. They're really good at, like, I don't want to say trolling, but getting people to get outraged before they even watch the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they've done stuff about like COVID and all kinds of different topics. And it's always like, if you don't watch it, you would get offended maybe just from the trailer. But when you watch it, you're like, oh, this actually makes sense and is funny and offers some insight.
Yeah, no, did they make fun of people that take, for the record, I take Zepbound, which is not a diabetes medication. It is just an obesity medication. And that's what I took. But I also had to go through a lot of things before they would give it to me. And I have to meet with a doctor every month, and I have to show that I'm exercising. And, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But, so when they talk about that on the show, that there are people like me that just can't get it because there are these moms that just want to lose 10 pounds that have no problem spending the $3,000 for a box of shots that are doing it. And so people who need it can't get it. And, and obviously all the collusion that goes on in the American medical system to make sure that the supply is at the limit it is to keep those prices where they are. So it's interesting. And I feel bad for Cartman.
Yeah.
But I was Cartman when he was reaching his hand out of the truck, just like, I could get it. One more dose. That's me. That was me. I felt it. I also know that Trey Parker, because they say it at the beginning, is also doing the shots.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So, he's making fun of himself. So it's hard to be mad at someone who's also making fun of himself.
Word. I started this new series that's on Max, I think. It's called Ren Fair. It's about this big Renaissance fair that takes place in Texas. The guy who runs it is elderly, and he's looking to find a replacement, either to sell it or find someone to run it for him when he's retiring/dying. Anyway, this is one of these shows where like everybody's a character. Like you think that almost like they're actors because they have the look of an actor playing a part, but these are actually just real people. And it's shot in a really cinematic, unique way for a documentary. And this is like a huge Renaissance fair that takes place in Texas every winter. Like 500,000 people show up every winter. It's open for like 3 months a year on the weekends, but it's still all these people who come through. And it's called Ren Fair, and I've only been one episode so far, but it's great. This is like, I'm really looking forward to the rest of this series. Highly recommend it. Just after this first episode, check it out on Max, I think. And the other thing I put on here was that they're making a Yakuza Like a Dragon series on Amazon Prime.
That could be okay. That seems like they could convert that into a series pretty easily.
Just add, yeah. But yet the tone is weird.
I mean, you can have a little bit of the weird tone, but I don't know if they'll like bring the weirdness to it.
They did with Fallout, sort of. They kind of brought everything, right?
Well, I mean, I hope that they do bring it, but I could also just see them like making it like a traditional like.
I know, but then it wouldn't be right.
You're right.
It's got to be wacky. You got to have a guy in his underwear and sound effects. And
I think he kind of and that's some challenge, right, to make that like watchable.
Well, this is going to be like, this isn't Ichiban. This is going to be the I don't know. I forget the guy's name.
Serious? There's some that are more serious than the others?
There's some that they're slightly like the Ichiban ones are slightly goofier just because they're based around Japanese RPGs.
Right.
But they all have they all are slightly goofy, but the mainline ones are a little bit more straight laced.
All right. Well, I think they're gonna make it a little goofy.
I hope so. I'll watch that. I like those characters.
Probably smart, You take these existing franchises.
They've got to do it now while we still have like story-based games.
Right. It's going to be hard to make a multiverse series.
They're all going away. We're going to find
multiverses.
They're all going to be gone on Sunday. That's the Microsoft show. They're going to open with
no more.
The age of narrative games is over.
Right. Welcome to free-to-play arena shooters.
The future of video games starts now. And you'll turn on your console and all your single player games will be gone from your hard drive.
Yes.
They just wipe them out.
We've taken the liberty of freeing up space for the next Call of Duty game.
Exactly. By the way, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. It's the only game on your hard drive. 500 gigabytes.
Just like Apple when they put that U2 album on there. Microsoft's going to start doing that. And they'll remove the games to make room. Take away all those narrative games. These are wasting too much of your time. Buy the Battle Pass, please.